Hey you guys, I'm Ashley.
And I'm Liz, and this is the Besties in the Books podcast. So we have a very, very special episode for you today. We have our first guest. It's so exciting. Our first ever guest interview with Lindsay Straube, author of her brand new book, Split or Swallow. I've got it back here for the visual aid.
Got mine back there. Beep, 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 beep.
Available on Kindle and paperback now. So don't you worry, though. Today's episode will be spoiler-free. So we're going to be doing a really great author interview. We're going to obviously talk about the book, but it is going to remain spoiler-free. So don't be afraid to stick around to chit-chat with us to find out, you know, what this book is all about, why you should go pick it up, and to find out some more about the author behind the story, which I think is what we're most excited about here today. But before we get into the interview and we invite Lindsay on, we just wanted to say thank you so much for being here.
You guys, thank you so much for being here. It means so much to us that you tune into us every week. Take time out of your day and your book. We know how hard that is to come and take a listen. And if you are new here, you just stumbled upon us for the first time, please make sure to like, subscribe, follow, all the things, anywhere you like to listen to your favorite podcast. And you can also follow us over on Instagram and TikTok at Besties in the Books podcast for some extended content. You know, our Unhinged Smasher passes that we do every weekend. We bring it to you, the people, and find out who you would smash or pass on in those Unhinged polls, and we just love it. We just love community outsourcing and feedback and everything. So much fun.
Yeah. So thank you again so much for being here. You can expect definitely more guest interviews in the future too. So, you know, if that's something that you're interested in, if there's someone you really want us to interview, shoot us a DM and let us know.
Yeah. And also follow Lindsay over on Instagram too. She's at Oxford Lemon. Best memes in the house, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good name for sure. Okay, so let's bring on... Okay, so here's the thing. I was writing the introduction for Lindsay. She's like, write whatever you want. I'm like, all right. And, you know, if you guys have been following Oxford Lemon, you know that she's just such a funny joy of an account to follow. She's one of the first accounts that I really started continuously following on Bookstagram when I kind of joined the community. So when I was putting together this little intro, I was like, what do I even say? Like, how can I encompass this person? So I just put that, you know, she's a hilarious meme account turned Amazon best-selling author. Like, how freaking cool is that?
Dude.
She's
killer.
I know. It's so awesome. She's a future bookstore opener, like bookstore owner. Lindsay lives in Portland, Oregon, where she enjoys drinking tiki so-sos, which she talks about a lot, which I find really hilarious. She likes to eat lemon Oreos. She goes to the movies. Her favorite one is Dirty Dancing. And Split or Swallow is her first book. And I looked it up on Amazon earlier. It's currently rated #1 in Love Triangle Romance, which is really freaking cool.
That's so awesome.
So welcome, Lindsay.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you guys for having me. Thank you for having me so much. I'm so excited. My first podcast.
Thank you for choosing us to... Well, we're loving it. Thank you so much for coming in, joining us.
No, thank you for having me. I love you guys. I've followed Liz for a very long time. Ashley, I think you were more recent, but Liz, you must have been, I think you were in one of the first 500 accounts, on Instagram, right in the beginning there, right in the beginning of Bookstagram, I followed you.
That makes me feel really special.
Yeah. I remember when Liz was here, she's like, oh my gosh, so Oxford Lemon, you have to see what she posted today. And I was like, who? And she's just like, what? Blasphemy. And so, addicted ever since. So, you know, she shows me the way, always.
So, all right. So here's the thing. We always start our long form episodes with a fave and fail of the week. We're not going to be giving a fave and fail from our week this week. We're going to be asking you what your favorite part, you're just going to kick us off. What was your favorite part of writing this book, and what was the hardest part of writing this book? Or what would you consider? It's not really a fail, but we just call it that.
Yeah. Or unless you have a fail, a printer issue or something crazy.
Yeah. Tell us about
it. Thankfully no huge fails that I can think of. Favorite part by far is kind of seeing the result that it's had, seeing it take off and seeing people send me pictures of it on their bookshelves. That never gets old. Can I swear on here?
Oh yeah. Do it feels right. Right. That's what we always say.
I was about to say that never fucking gets old, and then I was like, I don't know if I can say it. Okay. That never fucking gets old.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I think the response from the community has been mind-blowing, and it's my favorite thing to talk to people about it. People have made fan art of it.
So cool.
I lose my mind when I see fan art. Like, I can't even believe that that's my book. So that's the fave. The readers in the community that this has, like, kind of created, beyond a fave. A fail? One thing, I mean, it didn't end up being a fail, but I will say that something that put the fear of God in my bones was when I was doing the chapter drops, and I was terrified that I was going to email one that was further along than the ones I had already done.
Oh, yeah.
I cannot, and if I had done it on the website, it wouldn't have mattered. But if I sent it to the email subscribers and I sent like the last chapter,
yeah,
like, I can't take it back. I checked it so many times.
Yeah.
What did I just post? What am I about to post? What did I do? Like, back and forth just to make sure, because like that would have ruined it. You know what I mean? Like, I would have died.
Yeah.
That would have been rough.
Horrible.
Ooh, yeah, very stressful. Every week. You gotta put yourself through that. So thank you for doing that for us. We appreciate it.
So, okay, so should we just get into the rest of the questions? We had I felt like I was like, okay, we're putting together these interview questions. There's so many things that I want to ask you, but then at the same time, it's like, I feel like one of the fun parts about following your account is that you clue us into like the daily like happenings, which I love. It's so funny, but you know, getting a little bit deeper, like, I guess one of the first things is that we really wanted to know is, what should people expect if they're thinking about reading your book? Like, how would you, in like a spoiler-free way, like summarize just like a basic like plot? Like, if you're thinking about picking this book up, just know that X, Y, and Z is what it's about.
Yeah. And you guys will have to just rail me in, because like I am not great at being spoiler free. So if I start going somewhere, just tell me.
Yeah, I'll make one of my sounds, my weirdo spoiler sounds.
Give me a sign or something, like, but I'll try. Let's see. The basic premise, I always describe it as like The Bachelor. Like, it's kind of like The Bachelor, because we've got a human prince and there are girls who are going to be competing for his hand in marriage, essentially, competing to become the princess and the future queen. And the way they do that is by he'll make his decision based on who he likes in bed. So whoever's best at sex, essentially, like gets to be the queen. And how do they get good at sex? They're trained by a basilisk. And so like the basilisk has a human form and a snake form, and things get very messy as our main character Tem becomes involved with the prince and with the basilisk, and that's the general premise. Does that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that sums it up perfectly. What's funny about, like, as you're saying that, I used to be like an avid watcher of The Bachelor and The Bachelorette.
Yeah.
And I definitely like fell off the last like few years. I don't really watch it too much anymore. But it's so funny when you said it that way, because I was like, I mean, isn't that kind of like what they're doing anyway? Like, only without the basilisk, you know, without the extra fun part.
Yes, exactly. And like, why not make it at its most basic level? Like, you know, like, and I always thought that what do they call it? The Paradise Suite, or what? Whatever.
I know what you're talking about, but I can't remember.
You know, whatever they do at the end of that show, where they go and they have sex for the one
like the last two or three people.
Yes, it's like after hometowns. Whatever. And I was like, well, what if the whole show was just kind of that, and it was based on that, and it like, that is the only thing that mattered, is like, who's best in bed. And so like, that's the premise.
Oh my gosh. And it goes so deep into all of it. It's even more than all that. I got to tell you guys.
Yeah.
It's so good. So good.
Yeah, but I feel like that was a great way to sum up the plot. Like, if you like, you know, if you like spice, if you like a good like backstory to go with the spice, I feel like it's such a good balance.
For sure.
That's one of the reasons why I really enjoyed it. Because, like, very rarely, I will say, very rarely will I rate something a 5-star and also rate it a 5 spice. Like, to me, that's like the perfect combination.
Yes. And okay, Liz, too, you're like a dark romance girly. And so you were reading this, and I was like, I don't know if this is going to be like interesting enough for her. Like, I don't know, like, if she's there's nothing like, I mean, I think like, one thing about it is it's very approachable. I think I like draw you in very like slowly with like the sex, and it gets progressively kind of more like I don't know if it's even taboo. I'm not sure like the official definition. I mean it is at a certain point probably, but like there's a lot of, you know, regular human sex, and like I was like I don't know if she's gonna be that drawn in by it.
I mean, but you have to think like there's a good balance. I think that's what I liked, is there was a good balance with, you know, what you could consider monster romance, and then I definitely think that there's a fair amount of taboo romance in there too.
Yeah, and I think like one of my goals was like I want to make it so that I pull you in so subtly that by the time you're reading the ritual, and by the time you're reading the council meeting, and by the time you're doing these, like, you're reading these, no spoilers, crazy scenes, like, you're just in it already. And you're like, why do I find this hot? Like, how do we even get here?
You're just accepting it. You're just taking it as it comes. Yep. I love it. Oh my gosh.
Heyo.
Heyo. I know. So, Ash, why don't you go ahead and come in with the next question?
Okay, so you touched base on The Bachelor, but was there anything else that kind of helped you come up with this idea to write SOS?
So there was like one particular scene that kind of inspired specifically the kind of monster romance basilisk aspect of it, whatever you want to call it. Ironically, it never made it in the book. This scene is not in the book, so maybe we'll see it in another book. But like, I specifically had like a vision of like a girl in a cave, and like if I can swear, I can probably talk about sex, right? Like, it was like a girl in a cave, and basically I just had a vision of like she's fucking a monster, but like it's just his tongue. I like pictured like this giant and let me describe it. So like not penetratively, like she's not like fucking his tongue. It's more like the monster's huge. She's looking straight on into his like mouth. His mouth is open. His tongue is out like this, and she's straddling it as if it's like a pillow or like a log, whatever. Yeah. Like that's what's happening, and she's riding it basically. And I like that came to me, and I was like,
why not?
Yeah, I was like, I feel like there's something there, and it wasn't a basilisk at that point. It wasn't, the monster didn't exist. Like and I just went from there, and I was like, why is she in the cave?
Yeah.
Like, what kind of monster is it? Like, what's going on? And then I kind of followed that thread of like unconventional sex. I was like, where can we go with this? Like, what can we make hot that is not like P and vg like every time, you know?
Yeah. And I feel like you really developed an entire full-fledged story around that whole thing, you know? Like, you developed you developed characters, you develop a setting, so it's it's very well thought out, everything. I think you did a great job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I feel like it's also like for someone who maybe doesn't read a whole lot of like quote unquote monster romance, like because of the fact that like he does have a human form most of the time, it does make it a little bit more like, I think, like digestible for someone who's maybe new to that genre too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that was a purposeful thing. I wanted to really start you off with human Caspen and like kind of get you there like slowly. You know what I mean? Like, I think monster romance, you say that, and like, not you, just you colloquially. Monster romance has such a like, maybe a stigma. I'm not sure if it has a stigma, but like it has a certain connotation. Whereas like, I don't know how approachable it is to like the general consumer. And this is a monster romance, but it's also just a regular romance.
Yeah.
And so like I think it's extremely approachable for anybody, like whether you're into monster romance or not. Because to be honest, I literally have not read a monster romance. People ask me all the time, what would you recommend that's like your book? And I was like, girl, no fucking
Yep.
I mean, I think that the idea of like quote unquote monster romance is really widely accepted. Like, you know, we've talked about it a lot on this podcast with like Beauty and the Beast, for example, right? Like no one really bats an eye at that. But then for some reason, when you bring up like dark romance that has, you know, like any type of anything that's not human, anyone who's not human, then for some reason people feel a little bit uncomfy about it sometimes. Yeah. So I think that this was a really good like bridging that gap.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Totally.
So how long did it take you to write it?
Well, the answer to that is a little like winding. So again, just reel me in. But I began writing it. I had actually written a book before this, and I had gone through the querying process, which is where you try and pitch agents to try and get an agent and then have it traditionally published. So I'd written this whole book, I had gone through that whole process, and I did not get an agent. And that was very devastating to me, very heartbreaking. The book I wrote before this felt like my Roman Empire. I'll never write anything this good again. Like, and so when it didn't succeed, it really kind of just like broke me. It was the kind of thing where I was like, I'm never going to write again. This sucks. Okay. And then I eventually was like, I went to a very dark place mentally, and I was like, well, I can't never write again because I'm a writer. And so like that won't work. So in order to get back to writing, I need to write something that is just like so unhinged, no rules, like something that I don't try to make good and that I don't try to make as a follow-up to what I just wrote. Like I need to write something that is just like free writing, basically. And so I wrote about 75 pages of this book and this horny, book. No plot. Like it did not have a name. Most of the characters didn't have names, like nothing. Like it was just like truly like random sex scenes in this cave. And so it sat about like at 75 pages for a very long time. And then I made this bookstagram, Oxford Lemon, and I started posting snippets on my story, literally one sentence at a time. And people lost their minds for it. They're like, what is this? And so I went through this whole kind of, there's a highlight on my story or on my profile called Basilisk porn, which like shows the whole history of it. It shows me like finding it in my Google Docs, like posting the first couple pages, like talking about it, and people just wanted it. And I was like, okay, well, nobody wanted my other book, but like somebody wants this book. So then throughout the next year, to circle back to your question, how long it took to write, like throughout the next year on this account, I just started finishing it. Like basically I just started putting it together, started doing chapters, like started really like trying to find a plot and like figure out what it was going to be. And it took about a year, I would say, but on and off. And then the final like stretch was when I got back from Venice. Like I went on a vacation to Venice, and while on vacation there, I found out that a bookstore location that I was looking at fell through. And I was like, like fine. I mean, and that like broke my heart in a different way, whatever. And I came home and I took like 13 days and I just finished the whole thing, and I was like, all right, we're back. And then that's when Chapter Drops started up again for real, and Serpent Summer.
Love it. Serpent Summer. That's awesome. I mean, I also just want to say, I feel like that was so unique of you to release the chapters for free to read on your website. That was so cool and made it just so, so accessible to so many people. And I really just wanted to say that I appreciated that a lot. Yeah.
Thank you. That was super purposeful. Yeah. Everyone told me not to do that. Everyone was like, don't do that. Charge for it, whatever. Make a Patreon, like wait until, and I was like, no, like I am right now, I'm looking for readers. Like money, sales, whatever, that'll come later, but it won't come unless I have readers. So like I want readers now. And how to do that? You make it baseline accessible. You make it free.
Yeah, I mean, I loved it because I would just go around and be like, so, I work with clients all the time, so I have to like feel it out. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm not just going to tell everybody that is in my treatment room. Like, I wish I could, like, honestly.
No, for sure.
But if I had a client who I know reads romance or whatever, I'd be like, listen. I'd text them the link and be like, it's on there, like she's releasing chapters, like it's free, just read it. I feel like it's just, people are way more likely to just click that link and then get sucked in immediately, just like if they could just pull it up on their phone and start reading. So it was really cool.
100%. And I think one of the interesting things that I did, like midway, I was like, I had a link in my bio to my website, but it was just to the page where I had all the chapters listed. It was like chapter 1, 2, 3, 4. And one day I like tapped it with my finger and I looked at that page and I was like, that's very overwhelming. So I changed it to just be to chapter 1. So it just goes straight in. You start reading it. If you click the link in my bio, you start reading my book. And after that, my newsletter subscribers started building because they would they would read through, they would click that and be like, what is this? And you get hooked. You're hooked. You're hooked like three sentences in. You're like, what is happening? And then you get all the way to the end and you're like, any more? And then you sign up for the newsletter and then you go. And so I think that was like a big factor. And I think it really is approachable in that way. Like you're like, okay, I'll see what this is about.
Yeah, I completely agree. I totally agree.
Yeah, I think it was so cool to watch, like, it build and see the anticipation and the excitement. And like, people want, you're the perfect community to do that because we all want trophies, you know? So we're all going to buy it anyways. Like, it's all good.
No, exactly. My mom said that too. She was like, people will want it for their shelf. And I was like, there's a word for that. It's called a shelf trophy. Like, that's a thing. Like, people will read it all online. They may never even read the hard copy, but they want it for their shelf. Like, it's a thing. Like, trust me, it'll work out. Like, they'll want it.
Yeah.
They did.
Yeah. So exciting. So you kind of already answered our question that you've always been a writer. Oh. Yeah. And you have the other works that you've worked on. So I'm going to sub a question because I'm curious that we're talking.
Well, I'm kind of curious, though, about something of that. I'm just going to interject really quick.
Oh, good. Go ahead.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you have other works that you have written. Are you planning on, like, releasing any other works that are not related to this, like, in the near future, or are you not sure? Or do you have anything ready that would be, you know, published or anything like that? I guess I'm just kind of curious about other stories.
I mean, I have the book that I wrote that I tried to get an agent for. That's fully written. But I don't have plans to release it. When I don't know if you guys watch my stories, but when I was watching Divergent the other day and I posted about how I wrote a Divergent like Hunger Games fanfic, that's essentially what the other book was, but I edited it down to be like palatable for trad publishing. So I have a very long unedited like version of that I could
I'm
post.
like, I want to read that.
I know. I know. And I think that there's like an audience for it, but I think right now, no, I have no plans. I'm really living in this universe right now. I have no plans to release anything that's not connected to the Split or Swallow universe.
Cool. Yeah. So anyways, Ashley, you can go ahead and move on.
No,
I had to have that answered for me. I was dying to know. I was saving the question.
Yeah.
And you don't have to answer any of these that you're not comfortable with, but I'm just kind of curious. Did you finish, was Split and Swallowed finished while you were dropping the chapters, or were you still kind of building chapters while you were releasing them? Does that make sense?
So, yeah, totally. So there was actually two, like, iterations of chapter drops. The first one is when I hit 10,000 or 15,000 followers, I forget, and I launched merch. And I, for fun, put chapter 1 on my website and was like, oh, and by the way, that, like, silly, goofy book that I've been posting in my, like, it's there. And it, like, so many people read it and were like, what the fuck? Like, give us the rest. And so the next day, and I had about 14 or 15 chapters done at that point. So for the next like 2 weeks, I just released all of those day by day. And then I ran out. And I was like, I was like, I don't know what you want from me. Like,
they're like, we want
so
I had let's go.
Yeah. So I had to stop. And by the way, I already forgot your question.
Drops one at a time, or you were still building it, so it's kind of like a mix?
Yes. So at that point, I did not have it all. And then I stopped, and then it was a couple of months, and I went to Venice, and I came back, and I finished them, and then I came back for round 2 of chapter drops. And during that section, it was done. However, it was done, except I knew the end wasn't quite right, but I knew I could get it done by the time I'd reached the end, which was 3 months from now, you know, the end of the summer. And I was like, it'll be fine. And I just started going, and I just hoped that I wouldn't have to correct anything I had already posted. It was very complicated because I had 15 chapters out, so the rest of the book had to adhere to that lore. I couldn't change anything. I was like, I can't go back. And I was like, well, I better hope that what I set up doesn't fuck anything up later. And by the grace of the universe, it didn't. I didn't have to change one thing. Like, it just somehow, I set it up and I stopped at exactly the right point, and I set it up in such a way that the rest of the book was fine.
Dude, that's awesome. So impressive. Like, it worked out. I mean, I felt like the writing was so well done. It felt like, I mean, anybody you could go pick up at Barnes & Nobles. It was like, went through that. Didn't go through a million drafts is blowing my mind right now. You know what I mean? Like, edits and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
You did an incredible job. That's crazy.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, we're just going to keep going off on side tangents, but now that makes me think of another question.
That's fine.
And another thing.
Did you edit it yourself?
Yeah, and awesome. That's another thing. Like, I am well aware that it's not perfect and that it needs a professional editor, or like some people would think it does.
I feel like you did such a good job.
I've read ones that were very
and I
edited that had, you know, issues, and this, it was good.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
I think the reason it was a conscious choice not to do an editor. I had people offering to do it, and I just was like, no, because I don't want anyone to change it. An editor's going to talk me out of some ridiculous plot point, and then I'm going to be like, oh, you know what? And I had the blessing of being able to just do it exactly the way I wanted it. And so like I read it, my mom bless her, read it.
I love those updates. Oh my god.
And my mom. Well, and she found it without me telling her about it. She found the chapter drops. She like one day, because she stalks my Instagram, she's not allowed to watch my stories. She knows that. But she's like, that's your business. But she found the chapter drops and she read it. But anyway, yeah, so I didn't do an editor. And I just figured it was honestly kind of more fun that way. Like, if you have your original copy and like it's got a couple of mistakes, like it's fun. Like, and if you want something perfect, read something that fucking AI wrote. Like, this was written by a human. This was fueled by Merlot, and like this is a good, silly, goofy time. So like, I don't feel any kind of shame about not getting an editor. And like, I'm an English major. I'm a creative writing major. So like, I know I can string a sentence together. I knew it'd be readable.
Yeah,
it was great.
Well, it's more than readable.
It's more than readable. It's more than fine.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
So then our next like official question would be, who are your favorite authors, or like a few of your favorite books? Like, doesn't have to be related to this at all, just like you as a person. Like, what do you love?
Yeah, I get asked this all the time. And it's not like an interesting answer, because I don't read anything in this genre, which I know you said doesn't have to be in this genre, but it's true. I don't read anything in this genre, so I have nobody to recommend like in that regard. But my favorite book is The Hobbit.
A great choice. We love The Hobbit too.
Yeah.
Like, that's like a childhood favorite. I call it my like travel book, because I would always take it on airplanes or on car rides. Like, it's a journey book, and so I liked to take it when I was going on a journey. And I just love the way it's written. It's the ultimate comfort read. It's so like peaceful and vibey, and like that little first paragraph about like how hobbits live in a hole, and not a damp hole, but like a sandy nice hole, or like whatever. I love that passage. Like, it's the best. So that's my favorite book. And then my other favorite book is Crime and Punishment, because we were assigned that in English class in high school in AP English, and I read it like 5 times in the 2 week period.
I've never read that.
Me neither.
I just loved.
We got to put that on our list.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, look, it's an acquired taste. It's extremely claustrophobic and paranoid and like very visceral and kind of difficult to read, but I loved that about it. So I do recommend it for that. Is it like this kind of entertaining book? Like, no, but it's a journey, and I really like it. So those are my favorite books. Honestly, I'm not sure I have a favorite author. I don't read like in author.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if I read one thing by an author, I'm no more likely to pick up their next book. I'm just that way. I'm like, well, that was fun. Like, so I don't know for an
that's
author.
Fair.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Yeah, I know. Now I feel like we need to like read Crime and Punishment and report back.
Yeah, I need to know, because we read all the things. If it's words, we'll read it.
Yeah, it's brutal.
We don't discriminate.
Yeah, the people want to know 100%. I don't know if you've outwardly said it yet, but you have to choose. Which one would you choose, Caspen or Leo?
It's so easy. It's not even a question. I'm Team Leo. Team Leo.
Oh, wow. That actually shocks me.
Why? Oh, my God.
Because the whole inspiration now that I've heard for the book.
No, I'm so Team Leo. It's not even funny. I love Leo. I love Leo so much. Caspen, to me, is just, he's every old shadow daddy, whatever, like older guy who's like mysterious and hot and kind of controlling, and like but it's hot, it's fine, and like he's, you know, he's hundreds of years old, and so like that's cool and intriguing, but like to me that's so not interesting. Like, I wrote him for the shadow daddy girlies, and I was like, they're gonna love him, and they did. I mean, like there's so many like
true.
Team Caspen Team Caspen girlies who are just like, oh my God, he's everything. And I'm like, that's great, fabulous. But like, I am here for the little skinny, spoiled, misunderstood, like little rat boy.
Oh,
like,
I love that. Misunderstood.
Oh, he's so misunderstood, and he lashes out, and he has so much attitude, but underneath he's like so soft, and like I love Leo so much, and I think he challenges Tim in a way that Caspen does not. Caspen is just like, and so many people, I have not read ACOTAR, but I know the Tamlin, like, bait and switch or whatever. So many people were like, don't make Caspen Tamlin. And I was like, he's not. Like, I don't like that. Like, if someone's a love interest, they'll remain one. They're not going to then be the villain somehow. Like, I don't know, whatever. Like, I was like, don't worry. Just because I'm Team Leo doesn't mean, like, Caspen is, like, bad. I'm still going to write him how he is, you know?
That's one of the things that I loved. I mean, that's one of the things I loved about your book that I felt made it really unique was the fact that, you know, I mean, in the back of my mind, I was wondering that too. Like, are we going to end up really disliking one of these male main characters, you know, and without spoiling too much, like, no, I feel like it was really well-rounded, and I just really enjoyed that about it.
Yeah.
Something
for everyone.
Like, something for everyone, and I think like this book like lives in the gray area, and I think that's why it's so interesting and intriguing to people. Like, I don't make it easy to choose between them, and that's kind of the point. Like, so many people were like, oh my God, I was so diehard Caspen in the beginning, and now I'm Leo, and like whatever, and I'm like, you'll change chapter by chapter. I do it that way on purpose. Every chapter I want you to be like, oh, because neither of them are perfectly right for her, and neither of them are bad for her either. They're both right for her, you know, like, yeah.
I just loved their dynamic, and I loved how respectful both of them were to the situation at hand. I just really enjoyed it. I mean, you, just to speak for myself, and you know how I feel about this, you threw in Bastion. We won't give anything away about it, but he is who I was here for.
I know. I know. Trust me, the Team Bastion conglomerate does exist. And they're very enthusiastic. But yeah, there's nothing hotter than little Leo. Leo is willing to just take just part of her. What's hotter than that? Like, I don't know. What's hotter than a man who's like, no, literally some of you is better than none of you at all. Like, that's what I need.
Yeah. I love that. I love that you're so, like, definitively Team Leo. I didn't think that it was going to be that, like, clear cut of an answer. So I love that.
Yeah. I thought you were going to have an internal struggle.
Yeah.
No. Nope.
All right. Well, good to know.
You're like, none of that. Yep.
She has spoken, people. She has spoken.
So the 2.0, the second part of that question was, were the men inspired by anyone in real life? We have to know.
Again, easy answer. No. Like,
what? There's no in real life men that were as intriguing as Leo or Caspen?
What a surprise!
No.
Yeah.
This is fantasy fulfillment. I mean, I wrote who I wanted. Like, that's it. Like, I wrote the perfect. I wrote the perfect man, and I couldn't write the perfect man, so I wrote two of them. Like, and they both have two different. Like, there's I couldn't even write just one, so I needed both, and I needed them both to have certain things. And no, God bless the people that I've been with. No, none of them are anything like these men.
Yeah, you know, we get it.
So, you know, we talked a lot about the MMCs. So let's talk a little bit about the FMC Tem. So do you feel like you relate to her character at all?
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry, I feel like there's a little bit of a lag. I just want to make sure we're good. I'm still here.
Oh, you're fine. Yes, I do. Tem's a late bloomer, and I was very much a late bloomer too. And I think like that's something that was very like close to my heart. It sounds like stupid, but it really defined a lot of my childhood. Every sleepover I went to, you know, we would sit around in a circle and everyone would be like, hold up your finger if you've been kissed. And, like, I had to not, because it was never me. And, like, I got a boyfriend after everybody else. I lost my virginity after everybody else. I had to go study abroad in Germany to have anybody kiss me in high school, because I grew up on a small island, and, like, I had known everyone since I was a kid. And just that, like, being a sexual being, which is very much part of my identity as an adult, was not something I was afforded younger, because I just had no access to it. And I think a lot of these lines that Tem says about, she's just like, she's the last to know, she's the last to find out, she's the last to experience this. Why is everyone else getting to do these, what she views and what I viewed as a kid as these basic human rights of, like, being touched, be desired? She's last. And, like, I so related to that. And I just wanted to write her journey and have her come out in a way that, like, by the end of it, she's really empowered, and she's absolutely killing it. Like, she's just absolutely slaying the game in every regard. And, like, I wrote her that way because I kind of wanted to, like, almost heal that part of me, like, through her. I was like, if she can do it, like, let's give her this journey, because, like, that was similar to my journey. You know, I think, like, advocating for yourself in bed and also in life is not something women are taught. Like, we're not taught how to do that. Like, it's a learned skill. And I just think, like, I wanted Tem to go through that, and I related to that journey a lot.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it was, like, a couple of things that stood out to me as far as, like, Tem's journey goes is I feel like lots of times when you're reading, you know, like, other, you know, books where we have relatable FMCs, lots of times in the beginning, they're not very relatable to me, because I'm like, they seem very, like, I don't want to say clueless, but kind of clueless. And Tem never felt that way to me.
Yeah.
I feel, or just, like, very unaware of her own self-worth, things like that. Tem never exemplified those things to me. Like, she always, in my opinion, in my reading of the story, understood that she was worth everything. And I really appreciated that about the story, for sure, because then as she's moving along, like, through, you know, this journey of, like, you know, self-discovery, or whatever you want to call it, it made it more believable to me.
Yeah.
And way more relatable. So I really liked that character.
There's a line very early on, I think it's when she first goes to the castle. It's not a spoiler. And she meets Leo for the first time. And I think they're in the study, and he, like, something about, like, he kind of insults her. He's like, oh, you're a lamb to the slaughter, or whatever. And she's like, just because he's the prince, like, does not give him the right to insult me. And she said that so early on. She hasn't done anything yet. Like, she's just meeting him, but she did have a sense of her self-worth, even though she hadn't experienced anything. And so in her mind, she's inferior, even though she's not. But, like, that's how she felt. She still, even then, so early on, stood in her power and was like, no. Like, don't talk to me that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
I loved that.
Which is
really
so refreshing.
Yeah, so refreshing.
Yeah. Wanted to build her a little differently than, like, the other FMCs who are always, which, like, I don't want to hate on any books, so, like, whatever. I'll just say in general, they're always, like, skinny, starving, providing for their family somehow, and, like,
not to point any fingers.
Not to point any fingers, but that's every book. It could be every single book.
Yeah.
Like, I'm no better than these
roast
books. I'm
them
just
all
saying
the time,
that is,
so say what
that
you
is a
want.
You
stereotype.
can roast as much as you want here.
Yeah.
Your roasting is safe with us.
Okay.
We roast things we love, and we roast things we don't. Like,
but But I wanted to give her a little more depth than that. And I just, like, I built her very specifically. I didn't describe her physical appearance at all. Like, people ask me all the time, what does she look like? Who's your fan cast? I'm like, she's whoever you want her to be. All I did was give her curly hair and freckles. Other than that, her skin tone is whatever you want. Her weight is whatever you want. Like, I don't care. Like, she's you. She's supposed to be you. She's me.
That's great.
She's you. And so I just think, like, being able to implant yourself on that character as the reader reading it is, like, super important to the experience. And then when she's brave, you feel like you're being brave.
Yeah, I feel like the other part that I took away from like Tem's experience too, and you kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, was like this idea that like, you know, obviously like we like to read romance because it's like very like female centric a lot of times, right? It's like we enjoy it because it's about us, it caters to us. I feel like what made this really unique in my eyes was the fact that it was like, not only was the majority of this book very centered on Tem's pleasure, but I did not feel that she was ashamed or apologetic about that at any point in time. And I really appreciated that about it too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, you know, those corny, they're not t-shirts certainly, but they're like stickers or whatever. It's like consent is sexy, like whatever. And you're kind of like, but like, I really set out to try to make consent sexy in this and to make like communication a thing. Caspen is constantly asking her. She's constantly like, what do you want? What do you want me to do? Like, what do you like? And Leo does the same thing. He's extremely vocal. And Tem learns, it's like a blueprint for learning language of how to talk during sex. I don't even mean dirty talk. I mean like how to talk about what you want in bed. And that's a learned skill. And that's something I didn't learn until later in life. And once I learned it and kind of discovered it, I was like, my pleasure increased, and like I want people to not be afraid to do that. It doesn't have to be scary. It can be sexy. It can be a part of the experience. In fact, like it could be the best part about it. Like when your sex is literally just about pleasure. Like Tem unashamedly experiences pleasure, and that's and I feel like she unashamedly experiences pleasure, and then I also don't point out that she's experiencing it. It's just part of it. It's like it's just said that that's what's going to happen. And I feel like that's also key, because when you're hit over the head with it, that's not good either. Like it should just be built in. It's part of it.
Totally natural.
Yeah.
So were there any themes you put into the book that were like extra meaningful to you? I know we kind of touched a little bit on it just now, but anything else you want to touch on?
Oh man, and with no spoilers. Okay.
Yeah, I know. Ew, that's the tricky part.
Yes, there's one that I really liked while I was writing it, but I kind of just was like, that's nice. And then afterward, like a couple of things happened where I was like, oh, that is a really like kind of valuable scene. And it's when, again, I'll just not spoil it, but it's towards the end. And it's when Tem and her mom are talking in the kitchen, like in her cottage. They finally have a come together moment where they talk about Tem's past, what she's been through and what her mother has been through, and they talk about it together. And the whole book they've not been they haven't been communicating properly, and finally they sit down as mother and daughter and they do that. And my mom told me that she cried when she read that. Because I wrote in there that your mom is, or like your family's supposed to be your soft place to fall, and something my mom always says to me, like whenever I'm going through something, she's like, you can turn to us, we're your soft place to fall. Like, and so I wrote that, and that meant a lot to me. And it meant a lot to her. And then afterward, once the book was released, I had people reaching out about that scene specifically, and they were like, that's a conversation that I either I've had with my mom, and it was nice to see it like kind of mirrored, or I'll never have that with my mom. And so like I got to read about it, like, because my mom's not supportive of X, Y, and Z. And I was like, well, that's totally what I was going for. I was going for like a full circle moment where mother and daughter, generationally, who went through these similar things, sit together and like look at each other and are like, we're the same. And so that scene really meant
and
it
felt very realistic. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, given the extraordinary circumstances, it still seemed very realistic.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. That's why, like, you have this, what inspired this book is so, it's, you know, entertaining and it's funny and you got your smut going on, but you have so many themes interwoven so beautifully that there's, I like, you know, like I always tell Liz, like, I'm not a huge smut girly, but as long as there's a good plot going on, interweaving, and you nailed it. So you have those heavy themes in there that are just woven so beautifully, like a beautiful tapestry. So well done.
Thank you. Yeah. There are a lot of themes like that are heavy and that are serious, like breaking generational you know, abuse, like whatever, like owning your sexuality, like female empowerment, a lot of societal things that are touched on. Like one thing that Tem is always telling to Leo, she's like, this is wrong. Like, just because this is the way things have always been done, you have to stand up and say no when you are handed the power to do so. Like, that's a huge theme.
Yeah.
And it's in a book about snake sex, but like it's really it's really fucking important. And I think like you read it and you're like, damn, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed. 100%. So just to bring it back to snake sex, because, you know, as you do.
As one does.
Yeah.
So out of all of so you said that you had this vision of like this girl with this monster in the cave. So like out of all of the creatures that you could have chosen, like why basilisks specifically?
Because snakes are kind of sexy. I don't know. No, it's funny you asked that because it was a deliberate choice. I say it jokingly, but snakes are sexy. There's something kind of sexual about them. They are phallic shaped, like they glisten, like they're just kind of sensual, and like there's a power to them. Cobras, vipers, these are sexual things. Like, and when you think of other reptiles, I could have done an iguana or a lizard. Those are not
just seems
sexy.
Silly at this point.
Those make you laugh.
Yeah,
like those aren't sexy.
True.
They're kind of gross. And like snakes, for a lot of people, are gross. I know snake phobia is a thing, but like for those of us, you know, who watched The Chamber of Secrets and were like, I would.
Smash.
Like,
yeah.
And smash, literal smash, immediate. I was like, also. But Harry Potter is a factor because the basilisk already had a visual. I didn't have to explain that. Like if I had to, I would have to explain. And I didn't want to do a dragon because Fourth Wing had just happened and those were too popular. And like, I was like, whatever, we need dragon adjacent and something that's sexy, and it's snakes.
It makes perfect sense when you say it like that.
Basilisk has a mythical element to it too.
Yeah.
And the basilisks have a lot of interesting lore. Like they can look in a mirror and they die, and like the crow of the rooster and the weasel. I mean, there's a lot of. I love that you said that, Ashley, because there's a lot of like mythical stuff. I went down a lot of Wikipedia pages, and there's a lot of weird crap with them. Then I was like, fascinating.
Yeah, it's cool. It was
like,
a cool rabbit hole for
like
us
there's
to
no
go
lore.
down too. Yeah.
100%. There's no lore about iguanas.
You opened up a new, monster realm for us. It's great.
Well, see,
yeah.
I didn't realize that apparently there's some type of like subset of basilisk that's like a serpent body, but then like a rooster head.
Oh my God.
So I didn't know that, or like I might be wrong. People might come out of the woodwork and be correcting me about this. But the reason why I found that out was because my husband asked me what I was reading. You know, he ever so often will be like, "What you reading?" I think he just asked me that because he's just like thinks that he should take interest a little bit in what I'm reading. And I was like, I'm reading this book about like basilisks basically. And he was like, wait, the like snakes with like the rooster heads? And I was like, what now? Because that's not what I was picturing. But now I feel like I need to look it up. And I did. And there are pictures of that. So that was pretty crazy.
That's terrifying. That's terrifying. I did not know that. I did not know that at all. I get sent a lot of very odd things in my DMs every day, and people always send me snake related stuff, and I have seen some very weird shit. Like, some weird fucking snake thing, and the caption will just be like, Caspen? Question mark? I'm like, no.
That's great.
No.
Is that you, Caspen? That's hilarious.
It is not.
That's great. Okay, so the Challenger scene. Why don't you explain to us, just briefly, again, no spoilers, what the Challenger scene is and where we can find it?
So the Challenger scene was born from me watching the movie Challengers with Zendaya, Mike Feist, and I forget the third guy, Josh something. And it's a movie about tennis, and it's these 3 tennis players, 2 guys, 1 girl, and they're all very young and hot and sexy. And like, there's this one scene where they all make out in a motel room. And it's very misleading. Well, like my thing is so misleading because I call it the Challenger scene, and then in the movie all they do is make out, but in my scene it's a lot more. And basically it's a alternate ending to one chapter in the book where I placed it in the book, so it's at the end, but you can know where to read it. It's like one of those Goosebumps, like choose your own adventure.
Yeah,
you can love that. You can put it in. You can put it in and read it, and then go back if you want. But it's in the Kindle version and in the paperback version. It's not on the website. And I just figured that would be one fun little thing to put in there, like as a reward if you want to buy it. Like then you get the Challenger scene. I'm sure it's online. It's probably online by now. I don't know, but like. That's where it is, and you get the full experience. I just thought so many people were like, do they all get together? Do they all get together? And I was like, honestly, it would be super hot if they did. And I just like started writing it after I saw that movie, and I was like, honestly, this is like my best work. That scene is so good. I'm extremely proud of it. Sometimes I'll just reread it just to feel something.
Feel something. That's our motto over here.
I really do. I really do.
And I read it last night, and I have to say, even just like, that's what I'm saying, your writing style is just so great, that the way you built up within that chapter to choose your own adventure was great.
Yeah.
Yep.
I fully appreciated it as well.
Yeah. Is there a sequel coming for this one? Do you think there needs to be? Are you working on something? What do you got up your sleeve here? If you want to say.
There's definitely a sequel. Whether or not that's what I'm working on now and that's what's coming out next, that'll just be a secret. But there's for sure a sequel. I know how the whole thing ends.
Oh, yeah.
I know who she ends up with and like what happens and how they get there. But I don't know. And I'm also working on a prequel because I think that there's so many cool stories. We've got like her mom's journey through the training. We've got Leo and Evelyn. We've got, I think, Maximus's like rise to kingdom is probably really interesting. I like what Suzanne Collins did, where she did the Hunger Games and then she did the Ballad of Songbird and Snakes, which is President Snow, the villain. Like it's his origin story, and that was compelling to me. And so I toy with the idea of doing Maximus and like how he came to be, and young Leo and how he chose to raise him and that kind of thing. So I think there's two more big stories I'll tell.
But wait. You didn't mention Bastion anywhere in there, and I'm a little afraid.
Offended.
He's totally in there.
Okay.
He's totally in there, and like I'll write a fanfic just for you.
God. My life will be made.
Yeah, I will. Just for you.
I love that. Okay, so we have to ask, and if you've been following along on Oxford Lemon, you definitely see some of these updates, but we just have to know. So, what do your in real life people think about this? Have they read it? Are they supportive? What do your parents think of it? We must know.
So everyone in my life could not be more supportive, quite frankly. Awesome. I think the first people that I thank in the acknowledgements are my parents, because they're phenomenal people and they're amazing and they support everything I do. Bless them. I can't thank them enough. My mom read it, and bless her, like she forbid my dad from reading it, and that's probably a good call. And like he formatted the entire thing for Amazon, like so. He had to, and we sat down to do it, and I was like, Dad, you're gonna see some things, and he just held up his hand and he was like, Lindsay, I understand that I am not the target audience for this. And I was like, okay. And then he was like, and also I understand that it's art. And I was like, okay, like, then I think we'll be fine. And like, yeah, so they couldn't be. And my friends have all read it and they think it's a hoot. And like, my sister reads everything I write, and like, she always is so supportive. And so everyone's supportive. Awesome. It's definitely weird, but if you know me in real life, you know that like me ending up writing this book is not weird at all for me. Like, it's just, it totally checks out. It's totally normal. And like, I don't think anyone's surprised that this is happening.
I mean, that's awesome. That. I love that. Yeah. Following the whole, your parents, like, and your writing SOS journey, like, has been one of my favorite parts of this. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it's been hilarious and so entertaining.
Yeah.
Love it.
It's so funny.
So the other part of that question is, what do you hope that people will get from your book, like a main takeaway from your book, like after they read it? Like, what's something that you can help bring to people's lives?
I would say I really hope that people who read this feel comfortable kind of standing in their power and asking for what they want in life. I think a big theme, I dedicated the book to people who have always wanted more. And I really mean that in like a lot of multi-layered ways, like people who just want more from life, who look at life and are like, that's not enough. Like, I want to live on my own terms and my own rules. Like, and I think Tem ends up doing that. And I think anyone who reads the book, I would hope that they read it and feel empowered to ask for what they want and to go after it. I think like that's a huge theme. And that's kind of on the larger thematic level, but also I would love if people felt kind of sex positive after it as well. Like, I do think that's important.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. That sums it up so well.
That's great. That's perfect. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So I feel like, you know, if we don't have any more questions we want to ask, and Lindsay, you don't have anything else you want to, you know, chime in with, then I think Ashley has a little treat to sign us off with here. All right.
Yeah.
Yes,
all
let's
right.
do it.
Well, you know, you guys, every week we like to do an unhinged smash or pass. So we are putting it to Lindsay here for an unhinged smash or pass. I don't know how unhinged it is. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe she surprised us with the Caspen Leo. So I don't know. So we have for you, you have to choose one. Okay. Row. And this is no spoilers. So nothing, you know, normal row. Row or Bastion. If you had to pick.
Oh,
you have to have one.
It's Bastion, hands down.
Yeah.
Like, Bastion, come on. He's so hot, and my fan cast for him is Oscar Isaac. So like, how could that get any better?
When you posted that, I was like, she is my people, 100%.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, totally. I don't even have like a name for the guy, but like that's who came to mind when I was reading it. It's crazy. So
yes,
you just know. You know.
Yes.
You know what the people want.
Yep.
Yes.
I love that so much.
Good.
All right. Well, we just want to say thanks again for being our first guest on the Besties in the Books podcast.
Thank you for
we are
having me.
so grateful to have you here. Everyone, go pick up your copy of Split or Swallow. We'll just show you guys all of our copies. We love it so much. Just do it, please.
Snaky snake. Do it for the snakes. Come on.
Do it for the snake.
No, seriously, thank you guys so much for being here. And thank you so much, Lindsay, for being here. Make sure to go over to Instagram and follow Lindsay at Oxford Lemon and follow us at Besties and Books Podcast. We will put it to the votes, put it to you guys so you can vote too in our Unhinged Smash or Pass for both those guys. Make sure to follow, like, subscribe at all the places you like to listen to your favorite podcasts. Yeah. And you guys, we're going to see you
next Tuesday.
And
Friday. Sometimes.
And we'll see you on the line with Lindsay as well. You guys, bye.
Bye.